This is my video channel, and it's Wanderlust, the search for Forrest Fenn's gold. And today I wanted to do a review of the Forrest Fenn, the collected works bookstore in Santa Fe. This was recorded on 10/23/2013, and I'm going to play some clips from it. I was going to cover the whole entire thing, but I'm also concerned that the video is copyrighted by Toby Youngus and A Gypsy's Kiss. So I'm going to play some clips from it, and I have to email them and ask them. I'm still going to post the video, but I'm definitely going to ask them permission and to use the clips in my YouTube video. I don't see why they wouldn't. So, with that being said, let's listen in on some of these clips.
She's been to Idaho, Montana, Wyoming.
It sounds like a Neil Young song. Another question, please. Okay, go ahead.
Who's been closer, me or Dale?
Who's been closer, Stephanie or Dale?
If I told you that, you'd faint.
I peep right now.
Haven't you said, though, that people have come within like 500 feet of where the
People
treasure?
tell me where they are, and they're very precise in their descriptions of where they are and where they've been, and I can tell that some of them have been pretty close.
Real
Yeah.
close, yeah. Another question? Senor,
Will a metal detector help?
will a metal detector help?
A metal detector will help you if you're in exactly the right spot.
Okay, that's a lot of help, isn't it? Yeah.
Did you say just a minute ago that it's not on the top of a mountain?
Did you say just a minute ago that it's not on the top of a mountain?
I hope I didn't say that. Yeah, I'll tell you that that it's not on the top of any mountain. That's a big clue because there's lots of mountains out
That's
there.
a
Yeah,
huge
that
clue.
is interesting.
So forget Atalaya. You don't have to do Atalaya anymore.
It may be close to the top.
So I kind of want to chop up the clips. The Collected Works Bookstore interview from Santa Fe on 10/23 in 2013. There's a lot of banter back and forth. I think there's maybe 4 or 5 places, mainly near the end of the discussion. The discussion definitely goes off into some places, and the two people, the interviewers on the left and the right, definitely jump in and kind of banter around about book sales and stuff like that. But there's really only about 2 or 3 places in the video where there's kind of some information that's sort of interesting, and I think that was one of them, where about the top of the mountain. And I know that's been heavily discussed. I think that's definitely put a red mark in the margin kind of a comment. It's that when he says about it's not at the top of the mountain, but then he kind of comes back with a little bit of a punch back, and he says it's near the top, and everybody laughs. He also says that there's a lot of mountains in the Rocky Mountains. Let me rewind that just a little bit. Let's see if we can hear that again.
Yeah.
Did you say just a minute ago that it's not on the top of a mountain?
Did you say just a minute ago that it's not on the top of a mountain?
I hope I didn't say that. Yeah, I'll tell you that that it's not on the top of any mountain. That's a big clue because there's lots of mountains out
That's
there.
a
Yeah,
huge
that
clue.
is interesting.
So forget Atalaya. You don't have to do Atalaya anymore.
It may be close to the top.
Yes. David,
Why do you think people are telling you that they found the treasure? I don't see the psychology of why they would do that.
So there's a little discussion that goes back and forth, and then Forrest says this part. I think it's kind of interesting. So let's listen to this part.
If a person reads the poem over and over and are able to decipher the first few clues in the poem, they can find a treasure chest. It may not be easy, but it certainly isn't impossible. I could go right straight to it.
Amazing. Man has incredible power.
You're so easy.
partner along?
Would you take a partner along when you go to it?
Do you have an airplane?
So I still find that to be very interesting, and I think he's responded several times about the airplane, and I think it's interesting that the question was, would you bring a partner along? And it's kind of a 90-degree answer. Now, if you listen, and I will go try and go back and fit that into this video, is there's definitely a bunch of stuff in there, and there's a part in the very begin, about a third of the way through, where Forrest Fenn talks about making up answers, and after that, they spend a big part of the middle of the interview, and every answer Forrest Fenn gives is like a tall tale. You can sort of almost see his nose get longer and longer, do the Pinocchio thing, and he just kind of keeps. You can tell there's sort of BS made up answers. Oh, I know that 50 people called me or something, and 34 men, and all this other stuff, and this little boy called, and he said his sister called and said that what would he said, I tell you, ask your father the answer or something, which is just, I think he's just making stuff up on the fly, and he even said that before. But the thing that's weird about the question about would you bring a partner, and he says, do you have an airplane? Very matter of fact. I think that's another, put a red mark in the margin saying, I think that might be important. Is he just pulling everybody's legs? I don't know, but it's weird how he says that. Do you have an airplane? And nobody responds. I mean, nobody even follows up with a question with it. So let me see if I can find another little clip part that I thought was interesting. We can listen to that. Okay, this is a few moments later in the discussion, and this is near the end of the interview.
Wow, that's great.
Ask them why they don't.
Okay, yeah, how come you haven't gone to get it yet?
Because there hasn't been a blend of mind and moment yet.
There hasn't been a blend of mind and moment yet?
Blend
Yeah.
of mind and moment.
All right.
Wasn't there.
It wasn't there. Oh, you're the one, oh, he moved it. He saw you were coming, he moved it.
I'm sure.
Yes.
First of all, what's your phone number? I'm just kidding.
No, she wanted to know your phone number, now she says she's kidding.
And your credit card number.
Okay, say it again. Tell me.
Okay, do we look at the poem more as a physical location or a metaphysical location?
Do we look at the poem more as a physical location or a metaphysical location?
What is metaphysical mean?
Must be a physical location.
Well, when I wrote that poem, I wasn't playing any games. It's straightforward.
So that end part is the part that I was kind of interested in, and that he, after this kind of banter that goes back and forth, he straightens up and looks right at the people and says, I wasn't playing any games, it's straightforward. So you can read into that what you want. I think it's definitely like a little red margin in the mark where you want to say, I may want to think about that some more. So I think I'm going to go back to the front of the interview. There was definitely a couple of little things in there in the beginning, and the rest of it we won't listen to. So let me find these other little pieces in the front that I'd like to look at real quick. I still think this is the very beginning of this clip, and I think it's funny. It's just funny, but it definitely maybe looks into Forrest Fenn's sense of humor. Let's listen to this real quick.
Oh, right in the old kazoo. And you remind me of that. And if you ask him what a kazoo is, he'll say it's the roaming end of a mule that's looking at
I know.
So I think that's funny. What is a kazoo? It's the roaming end of a donkey. Or a mule, I think it says. Roaming end of a mule. Which is interesting. Let me find a couple other little of these clips. So really early on here, the discussion bounces around, and this is interesting. Let's just listen to this.
It's amazing. Do you know he's made more profit on this book than it cost him to bury in the treasure? No, I don't know. That's not true because the profits are going to charity. But
So it's interesting that he gets away with saying to bury the treasure. And Forrest Fenn doesn't come back about the word buried. And it's interesting that in the interview in April, he had said that, he said before that he hid it and it's not buried, but then he all came back immediately with the quip of, "That's not to say it isn't buried." Now this fella just said it's buried, and it could be because of the environment. Forrest is not going to go after him, or maybe he's distracted, from what's going on in the crowd. I think that's possible that he didn't come back. Let me find another clip here. This part here is the next little piece that's sort of interesting, so let's listen to this.
I hate to read anything where the next sentence is predictable. And I've written 9 books, and in each of my books I've made up words. And I look in the dictionary to make sure it isn't there. My argument is, if I use a word and the reader knows exactly what I'm talking about, then who cares what the word is? I've done that in all my books, and I've said some things in my book. I've made some deliberate errors just to see if anybody would find them, and they don't, and they haven't.
So there's the deliberate errors in the book statement from 2013, that he's deliberately made errors in the book. I think he goes on to say another part. Let's listen.
Or they're just being polite. But Forrest, I think Doug's point is really well made. I mean, you have this natural storyteller ability, and it shines through not only in the words that you put on the page, but the way the whole book is put together, and the way it presents itself to the reader. And I think that's what's really important about your writing, is that you tell a great story. And it's like you're sitting in a room with an old friend, and you're listening to a grand tale. Sitting in a room with an old friend, and you're listening to a grand tale that has a lot of truth to it.
Well, in The Thrill of the Chase, I talked about Hemingway's book, For Whom the Bell Tolls. And I talked about the mud and the dead horses and whatever. And I talked about being World War I and all the terrible things that happened. But it wasn't World War I at all. It was the Spanish Revolution. Not one person called my attention to the fact that I had named the wrong war in my book.
Again, it's being polite.
So yeah, that's the interesting thing, and there is the admission about the World War One and the Ernest Hemingway, for whom the bell tolls, in which he says it in the book. He says it's World War One, but it's really the Spanish-American War. Now I wonder if that's just a storytelling error, and it was a happy error, or here he's using it and saying he put the error in, but I wonder, maybe it was the other way around, is maybe he made the mistake, and then he could just explain it away. Did he deliberately put mistakes in the book? And another thing that you start to wonder, if he is admitting that, and he is, it makes you wonder how many other mistakes are deliberately put in the book for people to try and find. And if there are facts about that you can't check, like Ernest Hemingway book, maybe facts that he made up, there's no way to verify that he put in a mistake, or one would call that spinning a yarn, or he may be embellishing on a story, and there's no way to determine that, which again sort of makes these 2 books too far to walk. And The Thrill of the Chase, it makes the content, it makes you kind of raise an eyebrow about the validity of the content if you're going to use that to solve the poem, I think. So I definitely think I'm going to maybe do a second part of this, because there's still kind of a big piece of this video to look into, and I just wanted to spend some time talking really quick about that. He talks about the plane. You're going to need a plane, and he makes the quip about the kazoo being the mule's ass, but I think that's just a joke, and it's showing his kind of kidding around behavior. So I want to give full credit to A Gypsy's Kiss and to Toby Youngus for allowing me to have this video used. And I'm going to do a part 2 where we look at the other part, some other chunks that I think are really interesting. So thank you for watching my videos and listening to me, and hopefully you like my videos and subscribe to my channel. So thank you.